Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom.
Good morning, Bob. How are you today?
I am so well because I have this shirt that says Renegade Success Network. Finally, the polo is in. I couldn't be more excited.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you are excited about it.
And let me just offer you that I really feel, and I couldn't find the photo and I wouldn't be able to show it here, but I'll put it on Facebook. The look is very much like NASA guys. Have you seen the pictures of the NASA crew before they go up into like the International Space Station? Yeah, they're all lined up and they have their, their casual polo shirts to make it look like it's not real serious. This has that look because the NASA logo is so huge.
But as my wife said to me, if it wasn't, you couldn't read not that it's easy to read here, but you couldn't read the words.
Yes. It's a lovely shirt. It's a far nicer shirt than I've ever bought myself, in all honesty.
That's good. Well, I know how excited you were about that, and so that's why I chose not to wear mine.
There you have it. Okay.
I wanted to give you a chance to display it first.
There you go. And you were kind enough to give me two.
I know. How about that?
You were just living on the edge. And I did not do my homework. I took a picture, but I don't remember what today's day is. So bear with me for a second. I'm not on my game.
Well.
Okay, here we go. It is National Roller Coaster Day. Are you a roller coaster guy?
Not really. I can do. Once you start going completely upside down, there's something about that I think my stomach is beyond. It's passed me by.
Okay.
I have always
a different fear.
Yeah, I have a fear of heights, sort of, or just I get a feeling in my stomach at heights. And so, I don't know. Those things were not. It just was never a really big roller coaster person.
I'm a tall guy, and my fear is that my head's going to be chopped off. Always have that fear. Always.
So you never do roller coasters?
I did them when I was a kid, but I would be like this, crouched down, just praying. Even though everyone's hands were far higher than
your head,
my head, it was always the fear of that. Just,
Well, that's fair.
But the people that are really into roller coasters are like hardcore. Like they go around the country and it's a thing. And they build a new one every couple of years and they have to go see it.
Yeah, they're fascinating. It's fascinating to see all the various kinds. I like to watch people on roller coasters.
I do too.
Not as big of actually putting myself on them. Liz is a kind of a roller coaster person, I would say. I think
that doesn't surprise me.
Mellowed
Have you ever been to the roller coaster at Coney Island?
No.
Okay, that's on my list. I've never been to Coney Island, and it looks like an old rickety one, which I like the concept of. I wouldn't go on it, but I like the idea of the wood roller coaster and the rickety sound like it's going to all fall to the ground.
You want to see disaster happen?
No, I don't. I just like that sound. And I also like the history. I think that building them out of wood so many years ago was really creative and really impressive versus now you just get metal and, you CGI it and you do all that cool stuff. And next thing you know, you have loops. But think about it, building it out of wood 100 years ago. That was a commitment.
That was a serious undertaking. There's no doubt.
Yeah, that was a lot of follow-up.
Yes, indeed. Nice.
And Tom, I knew this was coming. Here it is. Tim asking the question, okay, really, how do I order one?
Well, so now we have to work on we have the individual production down. How do we create the ordered opportunity? That'll be next on my challenge. So based on previous experience, Tim, you can probably expect that that'll be ready in about 2.5 months. You'll have the opportunity. Hopefully it won't take that long. And I know that sometimes that's the case. So, well, good morning, everyone.
I love the honesty.
Well, that's what's real. There's no doubt about it. If we're lucky, there'll be,
And get over it.
Well, and maybe I'll move a little quicker. And
So Tim replied as I was thinking sometime around Christmas. So you're in good shape. End of October, Christmas.
Yeah.
It's not right.
Allow some time for shipping. And
yeah.
Makes sense. Anyhow. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. As you can tell, this is today's Antidote, our daily discussion where we discuss a topic and have a conversation around that topic and come up with our antidote. The antidote that will help you get through maybe something you're facing today or something that you're going to face down the road that has been a challenge or that will become a challenge. And this will give you an opportunity to overcome that challenge as we move through. And we encourage anyone who has comments. As you can tell, we like to share our comments. So please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. And at the end, if you have one thing, if you have an antidote to the challenge we're addressing today, please feel free to share it in the comments, because we know that while what we offer adds value, someone may be looking for exactly what you have to offer. So please feel free to share that in the comments.
Hey, Tom, can I jump in with one more thing?
Sure.
I forgot about this, but until just now, but we now are on Spotify with 15 of our most recent episodes. So we have some podcasts now. So a lot of people have said to me, boy, it's really hard to watch the video when I'm exercising or cutting the grass or trying to fall asleep late at night. So if you guys had a podcast version, that would be so much better. So now we have a podcast version for anyone who's struggling to fall asleep. Just go to Spotify, search for today's antidote, and it's right there.
I don't know what it says about people who, I really like this podcast. Oh yeah, when do you listen to it? Right before to bed, because it puts me to sleep.
Hey, it works.
It's funny. I thought when you started that, you were going to say that if you have a hard time watching this because you have to look at the two of us, you can just do the podcast and imagine that there are two other people with our voices sharing this. So yes, we are now available on podcast, so you can watch it, listen to it in your car or wherever you listen to. I have to get used to saying listen. Just listen to your favorite podcast. So we will continue to add those, and we are also going to go back and add some of our favorite conversations to the podcast over the coming weeks. So another way that you can get your antidote for the day. So Bob, we have been talking all month really we've been talking about follow-up, but it's really about reconnecting and engaging with people, re-engaging with people. And as the summer has gone through, there obviously kids are away from their teachers and away from their schoolmates. People sometimes are on more vacations. It's harder to connect and engage. So follow-up is an important thing to start to figure out not only what it is and how it has an impact, and how am I going to continue with that follow-up once Labor Day ends and people get back to a more routine business environment. So with that thought in mind, this week we are going to be talking about follow-up methods. And today we're going to discuss a little bit about what they are. And then later in the work week, we'll get into more detail about various follow-up methods. So as we share that as our topic for today, what are some of your thoughts around follow-up methods?
I'm going to tell one of my best stories about follow-up. I had a person I had coffee with years ago, shortly after I started my marketing company. We had coffee. This was a financial person, and she and I hit it off. We clearly understood each other and understood how we looked at the world of business. We had some similar interests. There wasn't really an opportunity to help her, and there wasn't really an opportunity to help me, but she did give me a business card, and I got her permission to send her my monthly email newsletter. And I sent her that email newsletter every month. I had no idea. I would see her at networking events. She'd say, "Oh, Bob, how are you?" Every now and then she'd mention something related to the newsletter. I really like that story. I really like this. I really like that. and we would chat for a couple minutes. And then about 2 years later, I got a call from her and she said, "Hey, I'd love to have you talk to my husband. He's looking for exactly what you do. He's looking for marketing help. They have a startup. I think it'd be a really good opportunity for you. Can I connect the two of you?" Connected the two of us. Immediately, he was the right person. And for the first 3-4 years of my business, he was my biggest customer in terms of revenue by far. And it was just because she said, every month I was reminded of you because of that email. And I'd see you around and I'd hear your name from other people. And I didn't follow up aggressively with her. I think, I think after about 8 months, we had coffee again. And it was pretty straightforward. It wasn't like, I need your business. It was really, hey, how's it going? How's it going? And it was a great example to me of how follow-up can work and just not pestering the person. And I think that's what someone said to me over the weekend. They said, I've been watching what you guys are doing about follow-up, and you're not talking about pestering people. And I'm like, quite the opposite. You and I both believe that the idea of pestering people is just not the way to go. If the person were to say to me, "Hey, Bob, I'm no longer interested. Can you take me off your email list? Hey, Bob, could you quit calling me? Hey, Bob, I'd solve that problem. You're of no use to me anymore." Okay, fine. I'd move on. And I think, I'd rather the person tell me that. If we're working on a website project and they need a website and it's like, well, okay, are you ready to build the website? You're ready to build the website? You're ready to build the website? If at some point they go, "Hey, I decided to do it a different way. I don't need you anymore." I'd rather know that.
Sure.
Limbo is part of the awkwardness. And I think one of the things, as I was thinking this weekend about what we've been talking about, is good follow-up. One of the methods is doing the ask. Follow-up, just chit-chatting is all well and good. But at some point, if there's a possibility of doing business with someone, you got to ask the question. Not in a, "Are you finally ready to work with me?" kind of way, but in a, "Hey, I've got some space on my calendar where I could fit you in. Would you like to take that space?" That's how I typically do it. And I find that that's much less threatening than, "I've called you 37 times. I don't really understand why you haven't decided to work with me. I am the best after all. And I got the really good shirt, right?" And you've gotten those calls, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I got a call 2 weeks ago from someone who had tried to call me 4 or 5 times and it just didn't work out. And she's finally like, "Look, I've called you 5 times. Are you ready to buy?" I was like, "No, I'm not. Have a good day," and hung up. Now, she followed up. I'll give her credit. She followed up. But did she follow up in a way that was helpful to the customer? And I think that's really, when we talk about methods, what does your potential customer need most of all?
That's an interesting. I like that. That was not where my mind thought you were going. Which is good. I mean, I think you're right. I think at some point there are ways to ask that are almost like inviting or just making people aware. It's funny. One of the things my coaches always like to talk about was, sometimes if you ask, like you said, a lot, it can be annoying. But if you ask for someone because you think this might be of value to someone and you didn't want them to miss out, then you are truly still adding value. Now, again, how you ask is a whole nother piece of it. But, I've had people tell me, "Well, why didn't you let me know you were doing this?" And you stop and think about it. It's like, "Oh, yeah, I didn't want to, I either didn't think about you. I didn't want to, ask."
Didn't want to bother you.
Right, all of those things we've talked about.
You've heard me talk about my pitch 50 times by now. You should know exactly what I do. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that there is that opportunity to say something like, "Hey, you know what? I really thought this might be something that you might find a value that would be helpful based on your situation because I know you." And if they say no, then you're okay. At least you feel like you gave them the opportunity for something that you thought was going to be helpful. And I think that's an interesting part of what the methods that we choose. It's funny, when I was thinking about this over the weekend and this morning, I was thinking more broadly about like in-person follow-up methods and not in person. And then even with in person and not in person, there's the, do I do it broadly or do I do it specifically, personally to someone? And I know we'll get into those later this week, but I think those are also methods that we can consider as we try to think about what's the best way. Because in your example, the follow-up was, yeah, it was probably personal because the newsletter was probably, you had put her name into the newsletter. So that had some level.
And the topics, I think, were probably of interest.
Sure. No doubt. I think that's a big piece of it. It wasn't just here's some random information that, a whole bunch of people are going to be interested, that this was really focused on, the area that you talk about and area that you think that the people who are receiving the newsletter are interested in. And so I think that continues to add value in it. And it was still a way for you to follow up, to stay in touch with this person. So they were at least aware of, what you were doing and how you were doing it. And I think so often, sometimes we miss those opportunities because we're thinking about what's the end result going to be. And we spent a lot of time talking about that last week. And so I think that the method that you choose can really be helpful, as long as it's non-invasive and you're not annoying the person, and you provide them with the opportunity that you think might be really beneficial for them. And I think that when people have approached me in that way, it's not been offensive. It's just been, hey, you know what? Thanks for thinking of me.
Yeah.
And thinking that this might be something that I was interested in. I think that's something that I think many people struggle with. And
assuming it's something you really do have an interest in.
Correct.
If it was, I don't know, participating in a regatta over the weekend, you'd be like, I've never done that before. Why would you call me? That doesn't work so well.
Unless you could then follow up with here's why. Hey,
right.
It's a whole bunch of our, it's our high school buddies, and we're going to get together, and we thought it would be a fun thing. And it's a regatta, but it's kind of like floating along a lazy river with a cooler in the boat. Person might be like, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Thanks for thinking of me.
I'm in.
Right. And I think that's the piece of it, is really understanding what your client needs are and why following up at that moment makes sense. And with the method that you choose to do it. Like with that, you probably wouldn't just be like, hey, here's an email. If you think about it and you want to join us, that would either be like a text, like, hey, we got this great opportunity. Do you want it? Or are you in? Or maybe a phone call, based on how your normal mode and how quickly you need a response.
Sure. And I think that's part of the discussion we'll have later in the week, is the timing and
Sure.
when you need a response, because that does play into the method.
Absolutely.
If you're starting an event tomorrow and you have 3 slots open, kind of have to deal with it differently than,
Yes.
Yeah.
Sharing it in a newsletter might not necessarily be the most effective way to do that.
No. So, Tom, what's your one thing?
My one thing about follow-up methods and what they are is, I think my one thing is, and this is going to be a little broad, is that there are many. There are lots of different ways that you can choose a method that will work for your client. And I think maybe that's the most important thing, is what is the way that it's going to work for your client? And as we mentioned, there's a lot of different options. What is the way that it's going to be effective for your client? Sometimes you know that and sometimes you don't. And I think the more you try various methods, the better you start to understand how your client responds, or your customer, or your staff, or your donor. And then that can make your follow-up more effective in the future, especially if it's a time-sensitive thing.
I like what you said. I love it. I'm going to add to it that you could actually ask the person how they want you to follow up.
Absolutely.
Are you a texter? Are you an email person? Are you a phone person? Are you a carrier pigeon person? Whatever it is. I mean, I ask the question all the time, and people I would never imagine being texters are like, yeah, the easiest way to get me is text. And most of the time they say, hey, I really appreciate you asking me that. It's like, well, I don't want to clog your email box up if you're never going to read your email. Oh, that's really nice of you. Appreciate that.
Or people who don't answer their phone because they don't necessarily recognize the number.
Right.
I think that's another pitfall that we have is, yeah, call me. Okay, great. Well, if I don't have your number plugged in and it's some random number that shows up with no name attached, especially on cell phones, how many people are going to answer that call?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Cool.
All right,
hey, Tom, I'm going to warn you. I'm looking at a low battery signal, and I have no electricity out here, so I could disappear at any time.
Okay. Are you crouched down today, or did you actually grab it?
No, it's actually dry. I don't know why, but everything is dry today.
I don't think we have.
It's awesome.
Very good. All right. Well, if you have one thing you'd like to share about follow-up methods and what they are or how you have leveraged them, please feel free to share it in the comments. You can also share it inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. And if you are not yet a member, and since we are now on Spotify and people might be listening to this and they may not be aware of our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, we hope that you will join us. It is a growing community of people who are trying to find their next step.
More than 1,000 people.
More than 1,000 people. And it's a great place to have a community of support, of community where you can share ideas and concepts and learn from what's real from someone else. You can also share what's real for you, because as I mentioned earlier, that will impact them. It's easy to do. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades. Now, it is a private group, so you will have to ask to join.
Spotify people, it is a private group. I can't emphasize that enough, although I will try.
He will definitely try over the next few episodes, if you haven't picked up on that already. And it's easy to join. All you have to do is ask and tell us why you are a renegade. Then you can become a part of this growing community that is helping one another take and find their next step on their own unique pathway to success. So we hope that we'll see you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of today's Antidote. And here is some further information about the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. We'll see you soon. Have a great day.
Carving your own path is tough. You want and need a community to offer you insights and advice, share inspiration, provide support, and save you time and money. But where do you find all that? Here's the easy answer: the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners identify their next steps. Here's some of what you will find at the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. Just go to ringofrenegades.com and join today. Find and accomplish those next steps.